If you clicked on this video, then you are probably someone who wants to change some of your habits or improve your life in some kind of way. Maybe you feel like you just need to try harder. Maybe you feel like you need to be more disciplined. Maybe you find yourself saying, I know what to do, I just don't do it. But you are not flawed, you are not incapable, and you do not need to hustle your way to making this year look different for you. This year can absolutely be the year that you glow up and improve your life, and not from trying or pushing yourself harder, but from starting to think differently. When you're working on a goal or trying to change yourself or your life, so much of the outcome of that is determined by your mindset. What's going on in here is dictating what's going on out there. And we often really are not that aware of how our mindsets might be holding us back from making changes or seeing progress. So today we are going to talk about 4 common mindset habits that you might find yourself falling into that really do not benefit you, and how you can change them to see real results in your life. So let's get into it. Hello and welcome to the next video of the Becoming 2.0 You series. This is a series that is dedicated to helping you change your habits, stick with your goals, and show up for yourself in the ways that you want to. So if that is something you are interested in, make sure to subscribe and stick around. The first one is all or nothing thinking, either being all in or all out. We're either doing something 100% or not at all. If we don't stick with the plan totally, then we feel like it's not worth doing, and then we end up falling off the wagon or just quitting completely. This can look like, well, I already ate something unhealthy today, so I might as well just eat whatever. Or if I missed a few workouts, then there's no point in doing the rest of the workouts I had planned for this week. I'll just start again next week. And this mindset really is one of the main reasons that people don't stay consistent and don't see results. And thinking in this way is not bad or wrong. This is a natural tendency of the brain to think in these kinds of ways because it makes things simpler. But as you can imagine, this way of thinking also makes it so much harder to actually stay more consistent with things. It makes it that much easier to actually fall off track. And really what's at the root of this kind of thinking is thinking in a more black and white way. We're putting things in one of 2 boxes. It's either good or it's bad. It's healthy or it's unhealthy. It's either correct or it's not. We're either on a health kick or we're not. And that kind of thinking just does not allow for any kind of nuance. It makes it so much more likely that we feel like we're not doing enough or that we're not doing things correctly, which makes it so much more likely that we end up feeling discouraged, which can really spiral us into just not trying anymore. But luckily, we can change how we think. And before we get into how we can start changing this way of thinking specifically, I do just want to mention that for all of the mindsets that I'm going over today, these are all so normal and so common and really are just natural tendencies of the brain. So please do not judge yourself for thinking in any of these ways, and know that you can change the way you think. So how you can start to change this kind of thought pattern is first you need to be able to notice when your brain is starting to go in an all or nothing route. You can notice and allow those thoughts to be there and then choose to think something different. And even if your brain is saying, it doesn't feel like it's worth doing if I can't do it to this specific degree, or if I feel like I'm not all in, that's okay. And it can feel so real when your brain is saying something like that. But just because it feels real doesn't mean it is. It's not truth. It's not factual. Those thoughts can be there, and then you can choose something different. Choosing something in the gray area, something in the messy middle. For example, if you can't do your full workout, do half of the workout. Or with whatever time you feel like you have available, do some form of movement. That's still gonna do so much more for you than just not doing anything at all. If you go out and get a pizza, instead of saying screw it and just eating whatever for the rest of the day, order a side salad. Or make a point to, for your next meal, eat something that makes you feel really good, picking some kind of more nutrient-dense option. Really, the goal here is aiming to do something. Something is better than nothing. Instead of doing either 100% or 0%, aim to do something in between. Doing something at 40% or 60% will get you so much further than anything at 0%. And what really ends up making so much of a difference in our lives is the small little daily actions and habits that we do. It's not the few times that we do something 100%. And it can also be really helpful to just start noticing where you are labeling things and putting things in 1 or 2 boxes, thinking in that more black and white type of way. So instead of labeling something good or bad or healthy or unhealthy, it's just a choice. It's neutral. Eating a pizza isn't bad. It's not inherently unhealthy. It may not be very nutrient dense. It may be very calorically dense, but there's nothing wrong with eating a pizza. And having that kind of neutrality with our choices can actually make it so much more likely that we make decisions that actually help us show up for ourselves in the ways that we want to. The second mindset habit is perfection, and this really can go hand in hand with all or nothing thinking. They can fall under the same umbrella. So this can show up as feeling like we need to do it right, or as the exact way we planned, or as what we deemed ideal in our head. Or maybe if we feel like we can't do it right or correctly or good enough, then we end up just avoiding it. This can really hinder us because we're not able to be flexible, and that can really make it so much harder to actually stick with doing something. It can make starting feel overwhelming because you feel this pressure to do it perfectly. It can make you feel like what you're doing isn't enough to count, which again can make you feel very discouraged. And it can lead to avoidance if you feel like you don't know if you can do it right. So overall, it can just make it so much more likely that we end up quitting or stop trying. We need to be able to think more flexibly because we need to be able to adapt and adjust when life conditions are not ideal, such as when life gets busy or unexpected things pop up or when we're traveling. And we need to be able to get ourselves to do something instead of just avoid it whenever we feel like we can't do it perfectly. So the solution here is to notice when you feel like you have to do something perfectly. Notice when you feel like you start to avoid something or start to come up with a lot of excuses around something because you don't know if you can do it perfectly. And then practice sitting in the discomfort of that, of not doing something perfectly, and allowing yourself to do something messy. When you notice this kind of tendency coming up, practice doing just one tiny step. If you feel like you need to go for a 45-minute walk in order for it to count, practice going for a 10-minute walk. Aim to just add one fruit or vegetable to your meals. Outline one messy first draft instead of trying to keep it polished all the way through. And I think something that can really help with this is just being more playful with it. Treat it like an experiment or something that you are just getting curious about or as a skill that you are looking to improve upon. And if this is a really big tendency for you, maybe make your goal to show up and purposefully not do things perfectly. Intentionally have the aim to not do it perfectly. Number 3 is being in a mindset of blaming and victimhood. And really what I mean by this is not taking full responsibility of the things that you do have control over, which is going to be your thoughts and mindsets and your decisions and your actions. And when we are not taking responsibility for the things that we do have control over, we are taking that control and we are putting it in the hands of anything external to us, external circumstances or other people. And that really impacts what we do because when we do that, then we feel less in control of what we do. We let external circumstances influence our behavior way more. And on a subconscious level, that is going to impact your confidence and how you feel about yourself and how you show up for yourself. So we really have to be willing to be honest with ourselves about our excuses and really not blame anything outside of us for why we do what we do. So instead of, I couldn't do something because X, Y, or Z, or I did something because X, Y, or Z, it's really owning your choices. I chose not to do that. I decided to do this. It is taking your power back and it is an act of self-respect, and that will do so much to help change how you show up on a day-to-day basis. So for example, let's say that you are trying to have healthier eating habits, and then you go to a wedding and you say, well, I had no control over what I was eating because I was at this wedding. Well, one, we rarely, if ever, are going to be in a situation where we actually truly have no control over what we are putting into our bodies. So instead of being in a mindset of, I had no control over what I was eating, or I couldn't make healthier eating choices, take full ownership of the eating choices that you did make. I chose to eat what was there. I decided to indulge in alcohol and the cake. There is such a difference between those two. So a solution here is to notice when you are in this kind of mindset habit and reframe things using the words, I chose to. I am choosing to. I decided. Really, the goal is to shift from I am at the mercy of my environment to my decisions and what I choose to do within my given circumstances are my responsibility. So for example, if you find yourself saying, well, I had to work late, so I couldn't work out. Well, one, you didn't have to work late. Wanting to and choosing to are two very different things, but you chose to work late. Maybe you chose to work late because you felt like you might lose your job if you didn't, but it was still a choice. And because of those circumstances, you ultimately decided not to prioritize working out. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But there is such a difference in I couldn't versus that was a decision that I made, right? Or instead of it was cold outside, so I couldn't go for a walk, it was cold outside, so I chose not to go for a walk. And that really helps you step into a place of, okay, what is in my control? And that puts you into solution mode rather than staying in problem mode, and it helps you take your power back instead of living from excuses. And I just want to note that this is not shaming yourself. This is not taking responsibility for other people or for the complexities of our society and our systems. It is simply taking ownership of your daily choices. And the last one is overcomplicating things. We can overcomplicate things for a number of reasons. Maybe we tend to be overthinkers. Maybe we use it as a way to come up with excuses to get ourselves out of doing it. Maybe we have a deep subconscious belief that things are just always difficult. But when we do this, we make things way more complicated than they actually are. And the tricky part is it can feel so real. But just because it feels real, again, doesn't mean that it's actually true or factual. And we can do this with so many things. We might make eating healthier or exercise or journaling or tidying up our space way more complicated than those actions actually are. This kind of mindset can make going for a walk a whole thing. Well, I want to go for a walk, but if I walk, I really want it to be in this part of town. But it takes so long to get to that part of town. And to make the walk feel more productive, I feel like I need to listen to a podcast, but I don't really feel like listening to a podcast. It's also really hot out and I don't know if I'm hydrated enough. And I feel like I would need to walk for at least an hour, but I don't think I have that kind of time. If you find yourself thinking in those kinds of ways, girl, you are way overcomplicating it. So if you notice that there's something that you are aiming to get yourself to do, but it's starting to feel really complicated, or you are thinking about it a ton, or it feels like there are all these barriers to doing it, then challenge those thoughts and think, okay, maybe I'm overcomplicating it. And then you can ask yourself, is there a simpler way to do this? If this was simple, what would that look like? What is one small, simple action that I could take? I can go on a 15-minute walk where all I need to do is put on my shoes and walk out the door. I can buy some frozen vegetables, air fry them, and then add them to my meals throughout the week. I could set a timer for 10 minutes each evening and then tidy up whatever I can in my space within that time. And I will say that especially when it comes to the internet and especially within the health and fitness spaces, content online can make things way more complicated than they need to be because we have different camps of people saying, oh, you need to do these very specific things. And then you have people over here saying, actually, you need to do these very specific things. And that can make things feel so much more complicated because you feel like you have to do these very particular things and you have all these people saying conflicting things. So if you feel like that's a part of maybe what feeds into this kind of mindset habit for you, then I suggest turning off the noise. Unfollow or mute some of those people for a while and really just let yourself focus on doing some simple version of the overall action you're looking to get yourself to do. Most things are not inherently complicated or inherently simple. It's usually just the way that we are thinking about it. And that's where it could be so helpful to just ask ourselves, what would make this simpler? How can I make this simpler for myself? And then go from there. For all of these mindsets, it is a practice to start thinking in a new way. And it takes the awareness of being able to catch ourselves in this kind of mindset habit, recognize while they might feel really true, that they aren't inherently true and that we get to challenge them, and that we can always shift our focus to something else. Just because we are traveling down one highway does not mean that we can't exit and then go down a completely different highway. I really hope that this made sense and was helpful for you. If it was, please let me know by hitting the like button or leaving a comment. That feedback is so helpful so that I know what is resonating with you. And if you have any questions, please let me know so that I can help make things clear. Thank you guys so much for being here. I hope you have an absolutely wonderful day, and I will see you in another video. Bye.